I just want to share a few quick ideas about Hanukkah. With the struggle coming off what we were busy with on Sukkot, and that is the Svasemes that talks about where the Anani HaKavod came from. That the Anani HaKavod were from Aaron HaKohen. So let's start from the beginning before we get carried away. So the Gemara says by Hanukkah that there were, L'shon Acheres Kavim L'halal V'Hidah. What's the Hidah over here? So, we're very used to understanding that the Hidah is a pshat that you might to Kadosh Baruch Hu for all the tayvus that he gives for you. But I want to maybe explain something a little bit different over here, and we'll see how it goes. We'll see where this takes us. I'll call upon him. So let's start with the Ramban Parshas Baloischa says that after the Chanukas Hanasim, which Chanukah is bite on this idea of chinuch of the Chanukas Hamishkan, that that Aaron HaKohen didn't take part in the Chanukas Hanasim, and he felt bad. So for a piyus, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave the mitzvah of Neira, and he says Shalcha Gedele Mishalahem, and the Ramban over there is Marich in the union of Chanukah over there. Okay, that's point number one. Point number two is that in all the Chassidish Svarim, from the Bnei Yissaschar onward, they're very busy with the concept of that Zayis Chanukah is that Chanukah Bechlal and Zayis Chanukah Befrat is time of the Chitam Hadin and the a hemshich, so to speak, of Yom Kippur. Where do we see that? What's that all about? So really, if you take a look, I went through it in Amaris the Harrison and Achmas Shifka Rebbe that was nifted 2 years ago. So he brings all the Marmakaimis and all the Tyrus, and really he quotes from the Tzemach David, who's the son of the Bnei Yissaschar. He says that he heard from his father that in Shemayim there's a tshuva of a yad that's nice and yad lapaishim to be able to to accept the tshuva of Klal Yisrael. So what's the pshat in this whole thing? So I want to explain it like this. So before we get to the Svasemes, it's just kedai to know that the Reb Shlomo Kluger and Chachma Shlomo, that's on the page in the Shulchan Aruch in Orach Chaim Sim Tov Reish Chaf Hey, which is the beginning of Hilchos Sukkah. He says like this: Basukas Teishu Shuvas Yamin, Ki Basukas Eshavtis Bnei Yisrael, Hem Anane HaKavod Shehikifam Behem L'Bal Yakim Sherav V'Shamash. That's what it says in Shulchan Aruch. And the Ramos, meaning that the Torah says you should sit in the sukkah for 7 days because, Besukkah Sheshaftis B'nai Yisrael, and these are the Anani HaKavod that HaKadosh Baruch Hu surrounded them to be protected from the inclement weather, from the heat and from the sun, and so on. Zok the Ramah Hako u'mitzvah l'saka in a sukkah miyad la'achir Yom Kippur mitzvah haba liyada al tach mitzana. That is a mitzvah to be misaka in the sukkah right after Yom Kippur because it's your first opportunity to do it. Then you shouldn't let the mitzvah get stale. You should do it. I'm going to read the Chachma Shlomo inside. It's a couple of lines, not so long. And really, I think it's better if we see the Chachma Shlomo before the Svasemes, and the Svasemes could really explain more of what's going on over here. So, Hine Madasamach Zela Kodim Nir Dezeh Shaykh Lezeh. There's it's not just for punk that Sukkot comes after Yom Kippur. We know that Yom Neroim is Nimshach throughout the whole Chodesh Tishrei. That the Spitz part of the Yom Neroim is like we spoke not so long ago about Atar Reis Das, is a pshat that's the highest part of the whole Yom Neroim. So Avada the Binyan HaSukkah that takes place right after Yom Kippur L'char Haltegros the Shaychus to the Kapar Yom Kippur L'char. What is the Shaychus over here? So he brings a Medrash Yashirim Rabbah that says V'chisa Anan HaKetoros. That's a pasuk by the Avodah of Yom Kippur by bringing the Ktaros of an Avil. Kisui Zeh En Yedei Mahi. I don't know what this kisui is. Shu Omer Kisisa Kol Chatasam Sala Hainu Kisui Avoy. So it says Kisisa Kol Chatasam Sala is a pasuk in Tehillim that says that the Melech is asking Kadosh Baruch Hu to cover up all his averis, that Kadosh Baruch Hu should cover up, meaning to get rid of that. Lefi Zeh Hine Kol Mash Yisrael Oisim LaKadosh Baruch Hu Mishal MaKadosh Baruch Hu Kinegda. Everything that Klal Yisrael does, any mitzvah that Kadosh Baruch Hu does, Hashem pays them back. Kama shekasa b'shas ba metzia daf pevav mepeis medj vayera. Kena chanami hu yisbarach habet al amal lo yuchal. So Hakadosh Baruch Hu, saw there were Gimel Parnasim Taiva, right? But it's also b'schus the mitzvahs that Avraham Avinu did. Hakadosh Baruch Hu repaid Klal Yisrael that they should be able to have the Mon, the Be'er, and the Anani HaKavod, and Aaron HaKayin is the Anani HaKavod, and we know that it came back after Aaron was nifter. It came back b'schus Moshe. Now there's the Gemara. The Mikal Makom Shalai B'Tzani Yisbarach Li is Sarvel Avaynis Beis Yisrael. Meaning, Hakadosh Baruch Hu pays us for what we do, but also Hakadosh Baruch Hu has a very difficult time being civil the Avaynos of Klal Yisrael. Ach b'Yom HaKippurim sheYisrael oisen tshuva, os mechasim imenu Yisbarach Hu mafshach oisen v'netzulas. Therefore, on Yom Kippur, when Klal Yisrael does tshuva, therefore Hakadosh Baruch Hu can overlook, and not only overlook, but forgive and get rid of all the averes of Klal Yisrael mafshach oisen v'netzulas. Ukach namar v'chisa anana kataris v'sakaperes. That through the Haktaras on Yom Kippur, that the Klal Yisrael's mechasa v'neseim from Hakadosh Baruch Hu ulakach keneged kisui zeh Yisrael mechasa l'fanu Yisbarach b'nana Haktaras, meaning keneged this that Klal Yisrael tries to be mechasa their pshoim with the Anana Haktaras on Yom Kippur, which, by the way, it's kedai to know the Rabbeinu Bechai in Parshas Balak around that area with Marach and Dinin of the Ketara, how it's Mamtik with the Dinim, and it gets rid of all the bad, evil spirits and stuff like that. So Mishalim Lama Hakadosh Baruch Hu take a Pesukis L'chasa Seisu Mizerma Mimatim Enisha Gehenim. So Hakadosh Baruch Hu pays them back right away that they have the opportunity to be Mekayim the mitzvah of Sukkah, to cover them over from all the inclement weather and from the punishments of Gehenim. L'kach Roi Latzis HaSukkah take it Achar Yom Kippurim. That's why you have to make the sukkah. It's the proper thing to make the sukkah right after Yom Kippur, because that's a continuation of the kapara and the kisui of the avaynos of Yom Kippur. Being that the sukkah is miramis to the anani hakavod to protect from the winds and the sun, that Hakadosh Baruch Hu protected them at the midbar. That's why you make right after Yom Kippurim, because this is how it's nimshach from Yom Kippur, mida keneged mida. Okay, so that's the Chachma Shleima. Now let's go to Tzvas Emes. It's tough Reish Mem Daled and Sukkos. This ma'am is very short, the Tzvas Emes, Kedarka B'Kodesh. But if you look at the ones with ha'aros on the bottom, there's a lot of ha'aros, and other places where the Tzvas Emes says the same concept, on and on, but that's not the point. It's tough Reish Mem Daled. Tzvas Emes says like this: Mitzvah Hasukkah Achri Mei Tshuva. The mitzvah sukkah comes after the days of tshuva. Al pi Gemara sukkah daf hey. It comes from the Gemara sukkah daf hey. But pasuk ma'achis p'nekise parshas levanonoi. It's the Gemara is talking over there about how Hakadosh Baruch Hu, that Moshe Rabbeinu, when he went up to Shemayim, so he wasn't able to hold on to the kisei kavod mamish, but it was he was 10 tvachim, it was 10 tvachim away. It's quite interesting because by Ner Chanuka, all the Chassidish farm say that the pshat is that even though that Hakadosh Baruch Hu was not Masher Shechinasai, within the 10 tvachim of the ground, but by Chanukah it's mitzvah la'anichai, within 10 tvachim, because that's good for the avoid of Chanukah, that there's a Shras Shechina even in the darkest places. So the Gemara over there is discussing a sukkah being less than 10 tvachim high, and the Gemara there brings a pasuk in Eiv that says Parshes alav anonoi. So the Gemara asks what's Parshes mean. Sapir Shakai Miziv Shechinasai alav. And Hashem says that the entire Klal Yisrael has the opportunity, so to speak, that on Sukkot, that Hakadosh Baruch Hu spreads his wings over them, Kaviyachol, that she'oisen tshuva, and this comes from the fact that they do tshuva. V'amru Chazal Yumadaf Pevav, the Gemara says that tshuva is magas ad kisei hakavod. So l'chein yored achakach ha'or miziv kisei kvoidoi v'seikech v'goinin aleinu. So after we do tshuva, which is Oila Ada Kisei HaKavod, which is Magas Ad Kisei HaKavod, so the Ha'ora that comes down from Parashes Alav Anonai, from Pirushaka and Miziv Shechinasai Alav, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings down a Ha'ora from Kisei Kvaydai, is protecting us with Anani HaKavod, is from that which is Magas Ad Kisei HaKavod. Now, it's interesting, because this is Mavur and Rishayim already, the Kadmaidim already speak by Arichas about this, There's a sefer, I think it's called Minchas Soilas. So it's early sefer. It's not such a Kabbalah. I don't believe it's such a Kabbalistic sefer, but it's very much al derech hamusar and a little bit Kabbalistic. Like a shtickle al derech ben Chai, could be even a Talmud ben Chai. So he has a big arichas about this nekuda befrat, how the Anani HaKavod were created based on the tshuva of Klal Yisrael, because Gedol tshuva shemagas had kisei HaKavod. But anyways, continues the Sfas Emes. Kasher Chacham Yigidu and Sukkah Daftes, the Chazal tell us Shachal Shem Shemayim Ala Sukkah. So therefore, Zok the Sfas Emes, because this Shem Shemayim Chal Ala Sukkah, that's why you have to have the Sukkah L'mayla Me'asar. Ein Shem Gemar Hanal. V'Amram Eshtav Lekisei, that there was a part of the Kisei covered that got lowered for Moshe Rabbeinu to hold on to. And V'zeh Inyan Gamken He Gamken B'Zman HaMikdash, and this concept existed B'Zman Beis HaMikdash Kayam. That the Kohen Gadol went to the Kodesh HaKadosh from Kippur Banana Ketairas. L'kein himshech ha'ora sheyishra anana kvoida al bnei Yisrael achar kach v'miachai. That the idea of the Anani HaKavod is that from the Haktaras HaKetairas l'fnei v'l'fnim anim Kippur, which is a big part of how the tshuva is magas ad kisei HaKavod, so that's where the Anani HaKavod come back down to us from that tshuva. I mean, it's very interesting because you're thinking about tshuva me'ava and tshuva me'ira, that one is nasal kazachis and the other one is nasal by tshuva me'ira. It's nasal kishkag, it's tshuva me'ava, it's nasal kischuyos, and this is literally where what form it's taking on, is that this is what the Anani HaKavod are all about. Then he's mitzayin to a Zohar Kaddish Emor Daf Kuf Gimel over there that says V'chisa Anana Ketairas is shaykh Derin of Sukkah. Doesn't spell it out, but it's pretty clear that the word V'chisa is the same Oisei Sukkah. Okay, so we just give a very long Torah about Anani HaKavod and Sukkah. Where does this come into Chanuka, and how does this have anything to do with anything over here? So let's go to just to be marked in a few different Hakdamas. I think like the whole thing is just going to be Hakdamas to Hakdamas. I'll call upon it with ideas like this. The Mizmar Shir Chanuka Sabayis L'David, if you pay attention to what you're saying over there, it's very clear that as much as it seems like it's talking about the Chanuka Sabayis, really what it's talking about is David HaMelech being mevaked from HaKadosh Baruch Hu that he should be mechaper on his averos. All the Lashonis of Refuah, the basic Mefarshim on the page learn that all the Lashonis of Refuah over there, Hafachta Mispedi, all these things are referring to his Avainus, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should be mechaper in his Avainus. Now, we know the Gemara says in Yuma, Chav Beis and Beis, if you take a look at Gilead Ashas over there, Kivegus and Tzayin, Yerushalmi Bikurim, which spells it out a little clearer maybe, that when a person takes on a new stellar, that they get a kaparas of minus. So the pshat is that Akash Baruch Hu doesn't want a person to go into something, all dirty. Chasen is Daim Lamelech, and with the concept of the kaparas of minus over there. So the concept of chinuch is that it creates an ability for a person's averas to get wiped out, but it has to come from somewhere. And this is what the Shem Shmuel is going to say. So the Shem Shmuel takes it like this. It goes as way. It brings a famous medrash. The medrash says that Shmuel Bar Nachman Pasach ki enochi yadati samachshavos. And Kosh Baruch Hu says that I know the machshavos. I know all the thoughts. What is this referring to? So Zok the Medrash Shvatim ayu asukim b'chiras shel Yosef. The Shvatim were busy selling Yosef. Yosef Isaac b'sakav tanisai. And Yosef is busy with his sakav tanisai that he was just sold by his brothers. Reuven Isaac b'sakav tanisai because of what he did to Yosef. Yaakov Isaac b'sakav tanisai because he doesn't know what happened to Yosef. Yehuda Isaac likach leisha. Yehuda is getting married. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Isaac bari Arish Mashiach, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is creating Arish Mashiach. So this is like a very wild thing, because like what's really happening over here? On the one hand, everyone sounds like We have a big percentage of people that are being misabel on the fact that Yosef is thrown away, including Yosef himself. What's with Yehuda that he's being Isaac Likach Leisha, and what's the story that Hakadosh Baruch Hu is Isaac Ba'erish Mashiach? So it's obviously very glaring in the Medrash itself that there's a very big question over here. So the Shem Yishmon Parshas Vayeshev, Tov Ayin Reish Beis, explains this Medrash by Richos, and he says like this. He brings from Rabbeinu Mepshischa that he says that Yehuda thought to himself that he fell so low with his vice of Tamar that tshuva is not going to help, and so he got married because maybe he'll have children, and maybe one of his children will be a tzaddik. So he's toasted, he's roasted, there's no hope for it. So maybe he could start again with having children. But he says that when his Zayda, when they told the Zayda, the Kutzker, about this, he said, Chas v'shalom, that the Chas leil Rabbeinu she'yemakai she'ish yismach al banav she'yisaknuhu. He said, Chas v'shalom, that a person should rely that his children should be misaken for him. Rak bevada kach omar she'me'achad shechosh she'ibid kol ma she'sigul miyem yosei al ken hiskul mechodosh la'avedas Hashem v'hiskul min hamitzvah rishayna shabbat Torah. So that the idea is like this, that Yehuda realized that he made a mistake, and he realized that he messed up, and he saw how low he fell, and he didn't know what to do. He was struggle over the eight. He didn't know what to do. So what happened was he decided he was going to get married. Why is marriage the answer? We always say the marriage is not a hospital, so what's helped us? So the pshat is like this, that he decided from that day on, he started a new program, a new regime, a new change, making changes. And the word is like this, he's working to be able to be Avodas Hashem mitchila, and he started from the first mitzvah of the Torah, and that is having children. And he goes on to say another word from the Rabbeinu Mepshischa, that the Svarim explain. The Svarim ask, what's the difference between Avram Avinu and meaning what was so great about Avram Avinu? The difference between what Avram Avinu did and, let's say, Noach or Chanuka, or the other Mr. Shelach, the other tzaddikim that lived before him. So he says, tzaddikim shekadmu estapku atzmam b'shleimas nafsham. They were concerned about their own madregas. Avram Avinu kama kamasa sheteitzi menu umar shleima karim b'shem Hashem sheyiskadal v'yiskadal shmois baruch b'chal olam. That what Avram Avinu's concern wasn't about himself at all. It was about his children, and his whole focus was what's going to be with the next generation, what's going to be his continuity. And he wanted that an entire nation, meaning his descendants, should be the ones that are going to be walking around being Mekadesh Shmois Baruch B'chal Olam. And Avada calls Ari Achar of HaTzadikim Holch with Rachav, all his descendants that are Tzadikim obviously follow in these ways, that their whole tafkid in life is to do L'man K'ved Hashem Yisparach, that we should be Ma'arek K'ved Shemaim in the world. And that's the reason why he wanted to have children. Not because his children are gonna, he'll have where to give, he'll have what to do with his estate after he passes. But the pshat is that v'kulon yedu shetzrichen lahoyled banim l'man yiyeh kibbutz eder shleim l'karim b'shem Hashem. And that's the real reason why. That's the real reason why what was going on over here. Everyone was busy with their own, trying to be misaken the chet that they did with Mechiras Yosef. Yehuda, by the way, if you look in the Meremes, this is stam good to know that Bechlal, the Meremes is very busy with this in these parashas, really starting from, could be even in parashas Vayishlach, basically through Vayechi, very busy with the differences between Yosef, the difference in Avodah between Yosef and Yehuda. Yosef is the tzaddik me'ikrei, and Yehuda is the Baal Tshuva. So that's obviously the Malchus Yehuda, Malchus Yisrael. Also goes along the same lines. Rachel and Leah, there's many different ways how to look at it, but I'll come on him. Let's just leave it at this, that Yehuda came up with a new idea how he's going to be able to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he has to start again. Meaning, a tzaddik me'ikrei, he just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. About tshuva, the pshat is that he has a lot more ups and downs. He's like and then he feels bad, and then he has to figure it out, and where did he go wrong, what did he do? There's a whole sefer Shari Tshuva that explains everything that you're supposed to think and everything that you're supposed to figure out. But the pshat is ki bein kai v'kai tzricha manu reishus l'rois yetzerach k'vayanasa. Meaning the point is that regardless of how we're going and what we're doing, We have to make sure that the Ratzon Hashem is being carried out. But afilu chas v'shalom ein lanu oit shum tikkun mikol makom chalil lanu l'graya mitzerich kavaya lahamed eidu shel karem b'shem Hashem. Meaning, even if we know the chas v'shalom that there's no hope, ein lanu oit shum tikkun, even if we know that we're totally done, but that should never stop us for 1 second to think that we're not responsible for our children. The point is like this: he's saying that it doesn't really matter where we're holding in life, but the main thing is that we should do everything that's within our kayach to be able to give to our children, to keep them on the right way. And he brings from Rav Avraham Malach, who's the son of the Maggid, the Mizrach Maggid, that Mefarsh the Gemara Brachos Taf Chav Chesed Beis Rabbi Yochanan Mazakai was crying before he was nifter, and he said, "Ein yedei beis adach malichin I see." He said, "I don't know which way they're taking me." Says Akasha, Chas v'Shalom Leimer Rabbi Yochanan Mazakai didn't know which way he was going. He thought he was going to get Gehenna. I mean, he was 100, 40 years was Gemara Rishana. 40 years he was Isaac B'Pragmatia. 40 years he learned them. 40 years he taught. Right? So the Gemara says, as if there's 120. Savadu is from the Mara the Chushbana. So what was he saying over here? V'Omar, so the Rebbe Avraham Malach said like this, that there's two types of tzaddikim. There's a type of tzaddik that if he's paigim in something, he doesn't leave there, until he's masakin, that become right away. But there's a tzaddik who has a madrega that's even higher than that even if he's paigim in something, he's not busy with that pagam anymore. Because from the second that he starts getting busy to be masakin himself, he's already doing something for himself. He wants to work for Kadosh Baruch Hu. He doesn't want to work for himself. That's a much greater milah than working to be masakin your own pagam, but to be focused on how can I move myself away from this, and how can I move on from this. And if so you'll ask, so if you're moving away from the pagam, so you'll never fix it. So he says, it's possible that there will be times that such a tzaddik would have to go to Gehenna to misakin such a pgam. But a tzaddik like this, like Rabbi Yochanan Mazakai says, I don't know which derech they're taking me on, meaning, are they going to take me on Gehenna to Gehenna because there's some minor pgam that I moved away from that I wasn't misakin in my lifetime? Or pshat is that I was a tzaddik, that I worked on everything and I worked for myself. And Mamela, if I'm working on myself constantly and I'm not doing so much for my children as much as I should, so then I'm not going to get Gehenna. But it's just a question which way they're taking me. Which is stop. It's a very interesting idea, but let's not get carried away with it. Let's move on. So he says that this is the pshat in Yehud over here, that he was not mashgiach on himself to be masakin the pgam, but he wanted to be able to take everything that he had and to place it onto HaKadosh Baruch Hu as a tzerich gavaya, and that there should be a Kiddush Hashem that's going to come out of his descendants, and that is why he was zeicha to the Irish Shal Mashiach coming from this specific Maisa, because Mashiach himself, which is going to bring from Chazal, she'enim mashgiach al tikkun atzmai. Mashiach is not somebody who thinks about himself at all. He's only thinking about being Masakin Klal Yisrael. Like David HaMelech says, he says, it's not for me, it's for my father, it's for everybody else. And the Psikta says that Sh'amar Mashiach al Atzmai, the Mashiach says about himself, that he should lose 100 like me, and not one person should get any nezek, meaning even a yid who was chaytay. And all of this is mushrash in this ma'aseh that Yehuda did, and that's why Yehuda is going to be zeicha to Mashiach coming out of his descendants, because what he was working on was that the continuity that's coming from him isn't just I'll have children that will be good kids, but that it's, to me, it doesn't make a difference where I'm holding. I have to work for them to put them on the right track and to make sure that they're doing the right thing. And that's going to bring out the grass to Kiddushin Shemaim that's possible. So the Shem Shmuel ends this off by saying, "V'ulai lazek kiven Rav Hakadosh mipreshista rak Hashem hechlef l'man yu lebanim tev metevis yala oise echem mibanav." Right. So he started off the word saying that maybe one of his children could be misakim for him, but maybe he'll have good children because a person taka doesn't know what's like the Gemara says in Baruch Nafid Zion that the person should be mispalel. That that doesn't Gemara doesn't say person should be mispalel, but shlei hey like ben etalmud shemakdiach tafshil berabim, that a person's children should should be zeichet to follow in the right way. Fine, but Kayodua on this vart from the Katzka and the Rabbanim Apshista that we just said. It's in the Kol Simcha, which is a collection of the Vartlach from Rabbanim himself. So it brings this vart, but not exactly the same way, but on the as a Haggah in Parashas Vayeshev, it says like this. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically he goes on and on about this thing. It's a long Haggah, but he says that Yehuda was taka ibid as Rishonis, and he started to be mechadish avedasa me'amitz Rishonis about Torah. V'zaysa machshava, to start again, meaning it didn't make a difference what happens, doesn't make a difference how low a person falls. He starts over again no matter what, a new leaf. V'zaysa machshava is a kol kach ikar lefnei hayodea machshava is b'chilivos ad shemimenu hayabari erish al Mashiach. That's the pshat in being bari erish al Mashiach. And to just rely on the fact that he says to just be able to rely on the fact that he'll have good kids. Kids are on and on, pretty stark. But he says in the Satis, so Prashishka is all about starting again. There's no such thing as a person's never done. A person can never go too low. There's always a welcome for a person to be able to start all over again. And it's not just the part of being able to start all over again, but it's the fact that that's where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Isaac, being very Irish al Mashiach from this Metzias, that a person, everybody knows how difficult it is when they're nichshel in something, and when they feel like they lost so much, and maybe they did, we can't be mamied the fact that averis are mechaber mitzvahs, but that's not a cheshbon. It's almost like he's saying that that's not even a cheshbon that we should be thinking about. Rather, we should be thinking about that. Yes, it's true that we were mafsid, but it shouldn't stop us from our schayvos and our cries that we have to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to be Isaac in the Torah mitzvahs, the Estar design, starting again. I'm a new person. What I did yesterday. That's scandic, right? So really, what does this have to do with anything? I felt that this is the word of Chanuka. This is the word of the chinuch, the kayach to be able to start again. If you go through Tehillim and you see what David HaMelech was going through, time and time again, David HaMelech was with this, and then he was nichshel with I'm not talking about the averis and the machshelos that happened, but just the ups and downs of his life, and that he's always constantly, singing Shir Sishbachas Takash Baruch Hu, as the Rishiva one time said that that's tzemach davar avdecha. Right, the bracha that we daven for Shemon Esrei for Mashiach is as tzemach davar avdecha. Why dafka tzemach? So the tzemach means to grow, to sprout forth. So the Rishiva was masber that the word is like this, that it's almost like David HaMelech was asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for Yisurim and for difficult situations, so he should be able to daven for them. And once he davens to get out of the tzara, so then he gives Haidat HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the Yeshua. And this was the cycle of events. This is the constant, cycle of what David HaMelech was going through. So that's the pshat and the tzmicha. It doesn't stop. It's constantly growing. Meaning because it's a circle, but it keeps on getting bigger, and the person keeps on getting bigger and bigger with every little bit of more haidah that he gives to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that's really the bottom line of what this vart is. So what does this have to do with Aron HaKayin? So pshat is like this. Pshat is that we know that Aron HaKayin was Eiv Shalom Reiv Shalom Karvus Abrius. So that's what it says in Pirkei Avos. But in Avos Dernasan, it says like this. It says Reuven and Shimon got into a fight. So Reuven goes to, so Shimon goes to Aron HaKayin and tells him, I got to, Reuven's upset at me for kach v'kach. So Aron HaKayin goes up to Reuven, who's the one who did the apla, and he asks him for a ride to yeshiva. So he gets like embarrassed. So he says, "What's the big deal? I'm not such a fancy person. I'm not so hush. I'm just asking you for a ride." And on, and then to the point where Reuven truly feels like it can't be. Obviously, Aaron HaKohen is a Baal Ruach HaKodesh. Obviously, he sees what I could do, right, or what I did. So then, why is he being mad at me so much? Elamai, I have to go ask him for forgiveness. So he went and he asked him for forgiveness, and that's how he was able to make peace. And he showed a chashivas for every person. So I wanted to tell you that that's a pshat in the Haida. That's a pshat that the Rumasak and Chanuka, the Chiduch, Bahal Haida. It's not just a pshat Haida in the sense. I mean, this is obviously coming from Pachadis with Minor Base, but the sense of Haida we're very used to thinking is gratitude, but the concept of Haida is being Maida, like the Maida Mixas. You have to submit yourself to something a lot higher, and that's a pshat in. And that's the pshat in the Haida. Meaning that's why it's Shalcha Gedolah Mishalahem is the pshat, because what Aaron HaKohen is accomplishing by this. Aaron HaKohen is the Baal Anani HaKavod also. The Anani HaKavod are coming from him. The Anani HaKavod is also all about, as we said, it's from the tshuva Shemagas at Kisei HaKavod. So just to wrap things up, to make things a little more interesting, it says, the Sifsei Kohen, who many people like to call the Shach al Torah. I don't really think it's called the Shach. I think it's called the Sifsei, but it's the Talmud it's from the Gurei Harizal. So he is very busy with he's very busy with by Yaakov and Parshas Vayishlach, that the Pachin Kitanim, that was the Pach Shemen of the story of the Chashminam, which is a whole Torah. But leaving it at that. So the idea of Chanuka is already mushrosh with Yaakov Avinu, but the pasuk states Vayvasa Yaakov Lavadu Vayovek Yeshiva Dalos Hashachar. Balturim says Vayovek is Gematria Kisei HaKavod, as the Gemara says in Chulin, that they're Melamed Shalu Avak Kisei HaKavod. Right? What does it mean that they Ramala Avak Kisei HaKavod? The pshat is that Avak is all the lowly. It's the dust. It's the ashes. It's all the lowly things. It's the Gemara says that Kulam Babak Lashon Hara, that the Medrash says that the Kol Pragmati Sheisrael Oisim Matzlicham Ba'olam Hazeh is B'schus Oisei Ha'avak Shel Yaakov Avinu, and Rabbi Kiva Imer Kol Melchama Sheisrael Oisim B'schus Oisei Ha'avak Shel Yaakov Avinu Not LaKadosh Baruch Hu Oisei Ha'avak V'Nosle Tachas Kisei HaKavod Shaloi Ador D'Chsev Hashem B'Sulfa B'Sar Darkoi V'Anan Avak Ragloi. So without getting too involved in the part of this medrash, but it's, the fact that the Malchama connected the Sarah Shel Esav, which is the Malchama, the ongoing Malchama of Tovers around the Welt, befrat the as the Rishivas Masber and Pachadis, that the first time that we have the concept of Misyavinim has to do with the fact that it was the Pogim and the Giranosh of Yaakov Avinu. But Al Kalpanim, the ideas like this, that's also the point, is that Magas, that this Avak was Magas Ad Kisei HaKavod, which is a Fiena Zach, that we said that the Gedol Tshuva Magas Ad Kisei HaKavod, which is the Shirish, where the Anani HaKavod come from, which is where the Iris of Chanuka come from also, because it says by Aaron HaKohen, by the menorah that he got after the Nesiim, that Shalchag Del Shalhem, and that's the pshat in the Halvaidos. So I think that the concept of the kapara of Chanuka, or the kapara of or the chitum hadin, if you, I don't want to say so much the chitum hadin, I want to say more the kapara and the tshuva, the shaykh by Chanuka is totally in the chinuch. How every moment that we have the chelis to be able to, mahu avata, just like a Kosh Baruch Hu mechadish b'chol yom tam and massive rashis, and Chaim V'loshen is masber that it's every second of the day. So to a person has the chelis to do that also. Not always do we take up the opportunity, but the Rebbeinu Shalom should give us the kayach to be able to deal with all these opportunities that we have, to be able to and to be able to utilize them is designed to have, to be mechanech ourselves and to be mechadish ourselves, and we should be zeichet to Eirei Shel Mashiach. Ad kan.